So let's start with a very basic question. Tell me a little bit about Sorren. How large are you guys? Give me the 30-second snippet of the backstory.
Well, if I can do it in 30 seconds, but I'll try. Soren basically is, I'm going to call it a collection of firms that have come together to become one. Really, and under a principle of community, clients, and our people. Basically, all have come together for that vision of creating a firm that lasts many, many years going forward to solve all of our accounting issues and problems in the near future.
So you mentioned the word there, vision of firms coming together. And I think you said to collectively solve your accounting problems for the future. Has that vision been consistent throughout this collection of acquisitions or collections of mergers?
I think it has, Derek. For us, we look at, as part of my job as corporate development leader is really go to firms and understand what's troubling them, and understanding, hey, they're all looking for solutions, right? We live in a very unique environment right now in the accounting profession where there's a lot of challenges, and we go through all of them. But for us, we kind of look and say, hey, though we're not the answer, but for us, we're looking for firms that come and want to join a firm that is consolidated and has the same visions as they have to tackle larger problems.
So you're looking for firms that share that common vision, essentially.
Yes. That's the biggest thing for us.
You didn't mention common technology stack or common backend platform. I can imagine going through, I'm going to use the term acquisition, but going through an acquisition, if the vision's the same, but the technology is different, I'm imagining that creates some pain points for you guys.
So for us, one of the first things, once we understand that we have a common vision and values and goals, right? And that's really important. Uh, one of the things that we tell firms is that you're going to come onto our platform. So we already have a predetermined tech stack, right? That though it's evolving, right? But that is basically every firm is going to move to over a period of time. So some firms it's easier to integrate and the transition, and some of them much harder, right? But it's that we don't disqualify any firm because of what their technology is, right? Because we can get them to become part of us. It's more of their mission, vision, and values is really what for us means the most.
So there's a famous stat out there. Harvard Business Review did a study fairly recently. It said 70% of mergers ultimately fail. And the number one cause of that is a failure for there to be IT integration. So if we assume mission, vision, and values all align, how do you approach then that IT integration when you said you have a back-end platform that you've already chosen? What does that conversation look like as you're going through the decision-making process with a new firm?
So one of the first things that I communicate to them is that we have the one firm mantra, right? Everything we do is one firm. So every firm that comes into Soren is going to ultimately be have the same technology, same processes, same procedures, right? And I do agree with you that that's probably going to be going forward, past and going forward, the biggest problem, right? And I can talk for hours why, right? I feel that this problem, and that's one of the things that I think we are very unique in that we just basically say, hey, we're all together as one, and we're going to do everything as one, right? And there's lots of reasons why.
And so you mentioned that you have this common platform that you've chosen, and you tell the firms, "This is what our common platform is gonna be." Talk to me a little bit how Rightworks fits into that strategy.
So Rightworks, I look at it as like the first step, right? That we do. And like for any technology, it's basically getting everybody on one platform, right? And for us, it's Rightworks, right? That's the first thing. Like, I mean, we do a few other things, start on the integration piece, but when it comes to the IT piece, Rightworks is the first one, right? That's the hub where everything is. That's where everything starts in our organization, in our integration on the IT side. So that's for us, Rightworks is like the first step, right? And it's not only first step, there's a lot of steps in there with that Rightworks is involved with, but it's really the first step. And I call it the first step for everybody coming into Soren is like they get the Rightworks.
So if Rightworks is the first step in this, and that becomes the IT integration big rock to get out of the way, does that unlock for you more possibilities in an acquisition as opposed to presenting, to use the term again, hurdles again?
I'm going to say, that's a great question because I had the same question for our integration chief, right? Who I know very well because that was my COO at uh, our firm prior to joining Soren. I mean, for her, basically, she said to me this. She's like, without Rightworks, we would have all these different platforms that everybody would doing something different, right? What Rightworks really does is allows us to put everything in one place, right? So it standardizes, simplifies everything we're trying to do on an integration platform. Without Rightworks, it would take us instead of 2 to 3 months to do an integration, it probably would take us 12 to 24 months. But so that, I mean, that's why that first step is the most important for us, right? It's the getting everybody into that that Rightworks. And I'll be honest, as she told me, she's like, when Rightworks comes in, the firms that aren't on Rightworks struggle the most. If you're on Rightworks prior to us coming in, you did it, it's a very fast transition, right? Because they just know how to work and they use the interface and stuff like that. Where the firms that don't, it's a longer haul, right? So Rightworks for us is basically it's simplified what we need to do, right? And I would say it's accelerated our our goals and everything that we can do. Because that was the biggest thing for us is that, we've exceeded, I'm gonna say outkicked our coverage, right? Exceeded every expectation we could because number one, we thought integration was gonna take longer than it really truly has. Now, we've learned a lot as we go on, but if we didn't have partners like Rightworks, right, and the things that Rightworks does, it would severely slow down that process.
Take me back to prior to the first set of mergers here. Before you all standardized on this, what sort of challenges did you face, either individual firms or that first collection of firms coming together?
Uh, let's call this craziness, right? I mean, you have to, there was 5 of us really that came together. We couldn't talk to each other, right? We had no way to, I mean, emails would have to go through everybody's separate firm. If you wanted to share people or work, right, it was clumsy, it was hard, right? Clients didn't understand, like, hey, um, it was a challenge, right? And that was one of the things that we first thought about when we did this was like, oh, we can do this for a couple years, get our feet, situated, and then, same name, same IT and all that. We got into like 3 months in, and it was like, what are we doing? Like, this is absolutely crazy, right? We just created 1,000 problems and we need to solve them. Well, what do we need to do to solve them is we need to become one firm, right? Not only just on the name, right? Just to send emails, but then IT deck, right? Process procedures, like all of that needs to be standardized in order for us to maximize our potential. I don't want to go back to that spot, Derek.